Consider this: a psalmist, identified as Asaph, is grappling with envy in Psalm 73. He admits to feeling troubled and uncertain about his faith due to the prosperity of the wicked. This fills him with doubt and questions his own faith. In this psalm, Asaph confesses his struggle candidly. He admits to feeling afflicted all day long and punished every morning. When he tried to understand the prosperity of the wicked, it was troubling in his sight. He saw that they are arrogant and boastful, seemingly invincible. This fills Asaph with doubt and questions his own faith. It sets the tone for a journey of grappling with envy and seeking a new perspective on God's fairness. Asaph's struggle is compared to the Theology of Job, who also struggled with similar issues. Both grappled with life's injustices and their impact on faith. But before we dive into the depth of his struggle, let's pause and breathe. In Psalm 70,2-14, Asaph confesses to questioning God's goodness as he observes the prosperity of the wicked. As we continue, you will see how Asaph navigates this struggle and ultimately finds a new perspective on God's fairness and goodness. Before we begin, a small request. Most of the people listening tonight aren't subscribed. If this channel has ever helped you drift off, take a moment to subscribe. It's free, it helps this channel more than you'd think, and you can always change your mind later. And if you feel like it, leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. I love reading them. One more thing before we begin. I'm also a co-founder of a sleep app, built to be the most affordable one out there. No ads, ever. Just sounds and stories made to help you sleep. It may not be released yet as this video goes up, but if you're watching a little later, it might be out by now. Just search for it, it should be easy to find. It works on iPhone, Android, and everything in between. Downloading it is the best way to support this channel. Continuing on, we find Asaph grappling with a peculiar sight, the seemingly unperturbed prosperity of the wicked. These individuals, unburdened by the struggles that weigh heavily on others, seem to glide through life with ease. Their bodies are well fed and strong, an image of health that stands in stark contrast to the frailty often experienced by the righteous. Freedom from burdens that afflict others seems to be their privilege, adding to the aura of invincibility. Arrogance is not just a trait, but a badge of honor for them, a necklace that adorns their character. Violence is not something they shy away from. Instead, it wraps around them like a garment. This display of prosperity sets the stage for Asaph's struggle as he tries to reconcile this image with his understanding of God's fairness. The psalmist feels a pang of envy as he observes their carefree existence, free from the burdens that weigh so heavily on him. This disparity begins to gnaw at Asaph's faith. Why does God allow such injustice? How can the wicked thrive while the righteous suffer, he wonders? The arrogance of the wicked is like a necklace they wear proudly, their violent deeds, a garment that cloaks them. This observation leaves Asaph grappling with doubt. Why, then, do I strive after righteousness if it brings me only affliction? He asks. This raw and honest confession marks the beginning of Asaph's spiritual turmoil as he seeks to reconcile these troubling observations with his understanding of divine fairness. It's in the stillness of God's sanctuary that Asaph finds his perspective shifting. The sanctuary, a place of quiet reverence and deep peace, holds an ancient wisdom. Here, the air seems to hum with a profound silence that speaks volumes about the divine presence. It's in this sanctuary that Asaph begins to discern the true nature of things. He sees beyond the surface, prosperity of the arrogant, and into their ultimate end. It's a revelation that brings clarity to his turbulent thoughts. In the sanctuary's quietude, he understands that their prosperity is a fleeting mirage. Their end is certain, and it's not the picture of invincibility they present to the world. Asaph realizes that their seeming strength is a false security that will ultimately crumble. It's here that he discerns the true measure of God's fairness and love. But the psalmist cannot help but acknowledge his inner turmoil. But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. He is honest about his wavering faith. In this confession, Asaph acknowledges that his faith felt in vain after witnessing the success of those who disregard God's commandments. This realization sends him into a spiritual crisis. It is in this state of doubt and questioning that Asaph enters the sanctuary of God, seeking clarity and understanding. They say, "How can God know? Does the Most High have knowledge? These are the wicked always carefree as they increase their wealth. They mock and speak with malice. With arrogance they threaten oppression." But Asaph, witnessing this injustice, enters the sanctuary of God, seeking answers. As they mock and speak with malice, their arrogance grows. They threaten oppression, believing themselves untouchable. But Asaph also knows that God sees all. For God sets them on slippery ground, he casts them down to ruin. The wicked may seem invincible, but their prosperity is temporary. In this sanctuary, Asaph finds his spiritual footing restored. He sees that God's justice prevails over the wicked, no matter how prosperous they seem in their arrogance. Their mockery and malice are temporary, their wealth is fleeting. For God sets them on slippery ground, and he casts them down to ruin. Asaph's journey, captured in Psalm 73, is a testament to the continuity of faith. This psalmist, credited with authoring several sacred songs, including Psalms 50 and 73a, offers profound insights into his spiritual evolution and initial declaration of trust in God. His contributions to the Psalms, especially Psalm 73, reveal a man grappling with envy and doubt, yet ultimately finding solace and clarity. Devotionals based on this psalm reflect on Asaph's struggles and the hope he discovered. Envy grips Asaph as he witnesses the seeming ease and abundance of those who flout God's laws. Their lives appear carefree and unburdened, in stark contrast to his own struggles. The continuity of faith is illustrated through these moments of crisis and revelation, reminding us that spiritual growth often involves navigating doubt and finding solace in divine truth. Psalm 73 is a profound exploration of divine justice and fairness through the eyes of Asaph, one of King David's chief musicians. He sees that the prosperity of the wicked is temporary and that their ultimate fate is ruin. This realization leads Asaph to trust in God's divine nature and his ultimate plan for justice and fairness. The legacy of Psalm 73 is a timeless reminder that God's ways are higher than our own, and that true faith involves navigating doubt. It offers practical wisdom for those who struggle with the apparent unfairness in life. By exploring the legacy of Psalm 73, we are reminded to trust in God's ultimate plan and to seek solace in divine truth. The psalmist's observation was not merely a casual glance. He took note of the wicked boasting and mocking God, seemingly without consequence. Their arrogance was like a garment they wore with pride, while their tongues spewed malice across the land. The wicked appeared to be free from burdens and struggles, their bodies strong and well-fed. This contrasted sharply with Asaph's own experiences of affliction and the daily challenges he faced. The psalmist's feet almost slipped from under him, metaphorically speaking, as he struggled to reconcile this apparent injustice with his faith in God. Yet, in the midst of this turmoil, Asaph found solace by entering God's sanctuary and seeking a deeper understanding of his ways. Similarly, the book of Job recounts a righteous man whose possessions and family were stripped away due to a wager between God and Satan. Yet, through his trials, Job's faith remained unshaken. In the end, the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he prayed for his friends, and the Lord increased all that Job had twofold. Job 42,020. This illustrates that true prosperity is not measured in wealth, but in faithfulness to God. In the New Testament, Jesus cautions his disciples about the deceitfulness of wealth. He teaches, "Take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses." Luke 12,015. True prosperity is found in spiritual riches, not worldly treasures. Asaph's journey from envy to understanding illustrates the transient nature of worldly success and its impact on faith. The psalmist found that true prosperity lies not in material wealth, but in a right relationship with God. The psalmist's realization serves as a reminder that envy of the prosperous is futile. Instead, we should seek God and find solace in His everlasting promises. For the transient nature of worldly success reveals that true prosperity is measured not by wealth, but by faithfulness to God. Asaph's questioning of God's fairness is not unique in the Bible. Throughout Scripture, many faithful individuals have wrestled with this very issue. Consider the story of Job, a righteous man who lost everything he held dear. Yet Job remained faithful, even in his suffering. Through his trials, he maintained that God is just and fair. Job's story serves as a testament to the enduring principle of divine justice. Similarly, the prophet Daniel faced injustice when thrown into a den of lions for his faithfulness to God. Despite this seemingly unjust punishment, Daniel was miraculously saved by an angel. His unwavering faith in God's ultimate justice is what protected him. These accounts affirm that God's justice will prevail, even when it seems delayed or hidden. The prophets often wrote of divine retribution, reminding us that God holds the wicked accountable. Through these examples, we gain a broader perspective on Asaph's journey. Asaph's realization in Psalm 70,50-20 echoes the wisdom of these biblical narratives. These stories strengthen our faith that God's justice will ultimately prevail. Asaph's journey through envy and spiritual turmoil in Psalm 73 is marked by a pivotal moment when he enters the sanctuary of God. In ancient Israel, the temple was not merely an architectural marvel, but a symbol of divine presence and comfort in times of distress. Historically, the temple held immense ritualistic importance. It served as the heart of Jewish worship and faith, where the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest containing the Ten Commandments, was housed. This was no ordinary structure, it represented the dwelling place of God on earth. In other psalms, such as Psalm 95, David extols the glory of God's temple, emphasizing its holiness and majesty. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God. His holy mountain, beautiful in elevation. This underscores the deep reverence and awe associated with the sanctuary. The sanctuary also holds spiritual significance in biblical narratives beyond the Psalms. In 1 Kings 8, Solomon dedicates the temple, praying that God's presence would be continually felt within its walls. But will God indeed dwell on earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you, how much less this house which I have built. This underscores the sanctuary as a sacred space imbued with divine power. Returning to Asaph's journey, his decision to enter the temple marks a turning point. It is within these hallowed walls that he gains a new perspective on God's fairness and goodness. Then I entered the sanctuary of God. Then I discerned their end. This act symbolizes his renewed faith and trust in divine justice. The sanctuary, therefore, serves as more than just a physical space. It is a spiritual refuge where one can find solace and clarity amidst life's puzzling injustices. For Asaph, the temple becomes a reminder of God's ever-present comfort and guidance. In times of distress, when our faith may waver, we too can seek the sanctuary of divine presence. Just as Asaph found restoration within the temple, so might we find peace and understanding through our own spiritual journeys. Asaph's envy of the wicked in context is rooted in his time and place. He lived during a period marked by stark economic disparities. The societal landscape of Asaph's era was one where the gap between the rich and the poor was vastly apparent. While the righteous often struggled to make ends meet, it seemed that the wicked were flourishing without consequence. Injustice was prevalent. The poor often faced exploitation and mistreatment, while those who pursued wickedness appeared to thrive. The wicked seemed invincible, boasting of their wealth and power without fear of divine retribution. This societal backdrop contributed to Asaph's initial envy, seeing the wicked prosper while the righteous endured hardships. Asaph's struggle was not merely personal, but reflective of the broader spiritual turmoil in his community. Understanding this context illuminates why Asaph's faith was shaken by the apparent prosperity of the wicked. Fairness, in the Old Testament, is a profound and complex concept, intertwined with divine judgment and human righteousness. The book of Proverbs underscores this with verses like, "He who pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. Proverbs 21:21. This implies that while fairness is a virtue, it's inextricably linked to doing what's right. This cognitive dissonance is what causes his faith to waver. He begins to see that true fairness isn't about immediate rewards, but long-term divine justice. The psalmist's transformation from doubt to trust illuminates the deeper dimensions of biblical fairness. In the ancient world, questions about divine fairness were not unique to Asaph. The psalmist David, for example, grappled with these very issues in Psalm 37:7, writing, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him." This passage suggests a struggle with patience and trust in God's timing. In Jeremiah 12:1-4, the prophet voices his anguish over the prosperity of the wicked, asking, "Why does the way of the wicked prosper?" This struggle with divine justice is echoed in Psalm 73 as well. Similarly, the prophet Habakkuk cries out in Habakkuk 1:2-4, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Why do you tolerate the treacherous?" Here again we see a wrestling with God's perceived delay and tolerance of injustice. These passages reveal a common thread among the righteous, a grappling with envy, doubt, and questions about divine fairness. This shift in perspective is not unique to Asaph. The psalmist David also experiences this transformation in Psalm 37:1009, where he writes, "Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart." This passage shows a move from struggle to trust in God's provision. And like Asaph, Habakkuk also finds resolution in Habakkuk 3:17-19, writing, "Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, yet I will rejoice in the Lord." This passage demonstrates a shift from questioning to trusting in God's ultimate plan. These examples highlight the common struggle and eventual transformation experienced by those who seek understanding of God's ways. And as we'll see, Asaph's revelation about divine fairness serves as a profound reminder for all who grapple with these questions. The Bible offers many insights into the concept of eternity. In Psalm 90:2 we read, "Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting you are God." This verse underscores the eternal nature of God. In contrast, humans are described as like grass, and all their glory is like the flowers of the fields, 1 Peter 10:24. While we may flourish for a time, our existence is fleeting compared to God's eternal nature. The psalmist grapples with the seeming injustice of the wicked prospering in this life. However, he comes to realize that God's justice operates on an eternal scale. This perspective aligns with other biblical teachings about heavenly rewards and divine judgment. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 26, "God will give to each person according to what he has done." This principle indicates that God's justice extends beyond the scope of human lifetimes. The concept of eternal life is central to understanding God's fairness. In John 35:6, Jesus promises, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." This promise reveals God's ultimate concern for our well-being, which transcends temporal circumstances. This realization serves as a comfort and a call to faithfulness for all who struggle with envy or doubt. It reminds us that true justice and reward are measured in the scale of eternity, not fleeting temporal gains. Asaph notes that God's people often experience affliction and punishment, yet the wicked appear to live carefree lives without struggle or burden. Psalm 73:3-5. Asaph's struggle deepens as he observes the prosperity of the wicked, who seem to live without care or burden. The wicked appear arrogant and invincible, wearing pride as a necklace. Asaph's envy grows stronger as he sees their freedom from affliction. His faith in God's goodness begins to falter. But there is a turning point, a moment of insight where Asaph realizes that the prosperity of the wicked is fleeting. This realization helps him understand God's fairness and justice. Asaph sees that while the wicked may seem to prosper now, their end is inevitable. He concludes that it is better to be pure in heart and to trust in God's goodness. His spiritual journey illustrates the struggle and resolution that can come from grappling with envy and doubt. The psalmist observes that the wicked seem to live in abundance and pleasure, with no struggles or afflictions. From his vantage point in the sanctuary, Asaph sees the truth about the wicked. Their prosperity is fleeting and their end is sure to come. Scripture teaches us that envy is a sin that eats away at the soul, Proverbs 14:1003. It leads to strife, discord, and even destruction, Galatians 5:26. This revelation calms Asaph's doubts about God's justice. He sees now that while the wicked may flourish for a time, their foundation is flawed and their fate sealed. The Levites, from which Asaph descends, are chosen by God to be ministers in the house of the Lord. Their role is not merely ceremonial, but deeply spiritual, involving the care and maintenance of sacred objects. Asaph's name, Gatherer, holds significance in his spiritual journey. It reflects the idea of bringing people together, a theme that echoes throughout the Psalms he contributes. Asaph's candid admission of spiritual struggle highlights the universal human experience of wrestling with faith in the face of worldly prosperity. Asaph's name, Gatherer, echoes throughout his writings, inviting us to gather together in understanding and faith. His experiences offer a roadmap for navigating our own spiritual journeys. In ancient Israelite culture, the notion of envy was a deeply understood human emotion, woven into the fabric of their spiritual and social lives. The Bible provides a window into how envy was perceived and addressed within this cultural context. The book of Proverbs offers insightful counsel on the matter. Do not envy a man of violence or choose any of his ways. Proverbs 30:31. This verse underscores the difference between righteous and wicked paths, warning against emulating the ways of those who prosper through unjust means. The Psalms also address envy, as seen in Psalm 37:1-2. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong, for the Lord will vindicate them and protect them from such people. This passage reminds believers not to let envy consume them when witnessing the apparent success of the wicked. Such biblical views highlight a profound understanding that true prosperity and righteousness are divinely ordained. This psalmist's struggle with envy is a poignant reminder of the human tendency to compare ourselves unfavorably with those who seem more fortunate. This backdrop illuminates Asaph's struggle and the profound insights he gains about God's fairness. Understanding envy within this cultural context provides a richer appreciation of Asaph's spiritual journey and the hope he finds. Asaph's journey of grappling with envy takes a pivotal turn when he confronts the divine law laid out by God. He begins to see that his initial perception of the wicked prospering may not be the full picture. In Psalm 73:4, Asaph highlights a critical law. Indeed, you have set them in slippery places, you make them fall into ruin. This divine mandate underscores the ultimate fate of those who disregard God's commands. This law serves as a reminder that while the wicked may seem to thrive in their arrogance, their foundations are precarious and destined for collapse. The law further illuminates God's fairness by illustrating that those who flout his commands are setting themselves up for failure. But it is within the sanctuary of God that Asaph experiences a transformative shift in perspective. His visit to this sacred place allows him to discern the ultimate fate of these arrogant individuals who seem to defy divine justice. Here, Asaph acknowledges the divine wisdom that sets these wicked ones on slippery ground, ultimately leading to their ruin. This realization brings a new light to his faith, as he understands that God's fairness is not immediately apparent, but operates over an extended timeline. In the end, Asaph's spiritual journey serves as a testament to the power of divine wisdom and the importance of trusting in God's ultimate plan. Asaph, the psalmist, wrestles with a deep envy that threatens to consume him. His eyes are drawn to what seems like unjust prosperity around him. He sees the wicked flourishing, their lives seemingly free from struggle and burden. In contrast, Asaph feels his own path is filled with affliction and punishment. His perception of worldly wealth becomes a sharp point of envy. But what is this worldly wealth? The Apostle Paul, in his letter to Timothy, defines it as a pursuit of dishonest gain. Paul warns that this path leads only to ruin and destruction. He sees their abundance and ease, feeling his faith slip away. But does this view of worldly wealth align with the divine teachings? As he enters God's sanctuary, Asaph begins to discern a deeper truth. In the presence of divine wisdom, Asaph finds that his view on material possessions was distorted. He realizes that the prosperity of the wicked is fleeting and ultimately leads to ruin. Similarly, the book of Ecclesiastes explores the theme of the transience of worldly pursuits. In Ecclesiastes 1:4-11, we see a poetic description of the futility of human labor and the inevitable cycle of generations rising and falling. The author observes that the sun rises and the sun sets, and notes how everything is cyclical and temporary. This passage underscores the fleeting nature of all earthly endeavors. This insight provides a biblical context for Asaph's realization of the temporary nature of the wicked's prosperity, allowing us to see how his journey aligns with the broader teachings of Scripture. As we consider this truth, it becomes clear that true prosperity and security are not rooted in the fleeting riches of this world, but rather in the enduring promises and faithfulness of God. By understanding the transience of worldly success, we can find solace and hope in the eternal promises that God offers to all who seek Him faithfully. In Matthew 6:1-9-21, Jesus teaches His disciples not to store up treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy them, but rather to store up treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves cannot break in and steal. In 1 Corinthians 30:14, the Apostle Paul writes about the eternal reward that awaits those who build on the foundation of Christ with gold, silver, and costly stones. He sees that the arrogant will perish from terror and the wicked will be no more. The righteous, however, will take hold of life and will possess the land forever. In Malachi 36, we find a striking affirmation: I, the Lord, do not change. This scriptural truth underscores the permanence of divine goodness. It is not swayed by the fluctuations of human fortune or the fleeting appearances of injustice. The Hebrews 13:8 reiterates this stability with the words, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. This verse emphasizes that divine goodness remains constant, unaffected by temporal changes. He realizes the fleeting nature of the wicked's prosperity, affirming that they will be no more. This understanding aligns with Psalm 70,023-24, where Asaph acknowledges God's steadfast love. Yet I am always with you, you hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me into glory. To fully understand Asaph's struggle, we must turn to the wisdom of Solomon. Solomon, a king known for his profound insights, penned a crucial teaching in Proverbs 14:3. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. This ancient wisdom provides context for Asaph's journey and his eventual realization about divine goodness. In the ancient Near East, where Asaph walked and wrote his psalms, prosperity was often seen as a sign of divine favor. Neighboring cultures believed that wealth and success were blessings from their gods, bestowed upon those who pleased them. The Assyrians, known for their vast empire and military prowess, saw prosperity as a reward from their chief god, Ashur. Their royal inscriptions boast of abundant harvests and lavish treasures, all attributed to divine favor. Similarly, the Babylonians, famed for their city of Babylon with its hanging gardens, viewed wealth as a gift from Marduk, their patron deity. The more prosperous one was, the closer they believed themselves to be in the favor of the gods. These beliefs permeated the cultural landscape of Asaph's time, influencing how he and others viewed prosperity. If wealth was a sign of divine favor, then the wicked who seemed to prosper must be favored by God. The cultural landscape of Asaph's time was permeated with the notion that wealth signified divine favor, making it difficult for him to reconcile his envy of the prosperous wicked. In such a context, the psalmist's struggle with envy was not isolated, but shared by many who questioned God's justice. However, Asaph found solace in communal worship, where he could voice his doubts and gain new perspectives from the collective wisdom of the community. The Psalms themselves serve as a testament to this practice, with numerous psalmists pouring out their hearts before God in communion with others. Moreover, communal worship offered Asaph a broader perspective on divine justice, where individual experiences interweave with collective narratives of faith. For instance, the story of Job, where a righteous man suffers greatly but ultimately finds vindication, would have resonated deeply within Asaph's community. This collective understanding emphasized that God's justice might not always be evident in the immediate, but is steadfast and will ultimately prevail. The role of community in Asaph's spiritual journey underscores the importance of shared experiences in navigating doubt and finding renewed faith. It serves as a reminder that our struggles are not isolated, but can be met with collective wisdom and support, leading to a deeper understanding of divine truths. Thus, the supportive role of community in Asaph's journey highlights the significance of communal worship in providing clarity and reassurance about God's justice. In 2 Corinthians 4:17-18, the Apostle Paul provides a compelling glimpse into this eternal perspective. He writes, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." This passage emphasizes that any hardship or struggle in this life is minuscule compared to the enduring rewards awaiting those who persevere. Paul continues, "So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." This reminds us that while our present trials may seem overwhelming, they pale in comparison to the eternity that awaits those with pure hearts. The transformation Asaph experiences serves as a powerful reminder that true understanding of God's fairness often requires an expanded viewpoint, one that encompasses not just the present, but the eternal as well. As we continue to explore the eternal nature of God's goodness, let us remember that every challenge faced in this life is but a stepping stone towards the eternal glory awaiting those who remain steadfast and pure in heart. Asaph's struggle intensifies as he witnesses the apparent invincibility of these wicked individuals. Their tongues speak with malice and arrogance, threatening oppression without fear of divine retribution. This observation leads Asaph into a deeper spiritual turmoil. Yet even as Asaph finds this new insight, the depth of his spiritual struggle remains evident. His confession serves as a testament to the enduring human wrestle with faith in the face of life's puzzling injustices. From the beginning of time, wealth has been recognized as a means to sustain life. In Genesis 2015, God places Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and says, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden," signaling that provision was part of their divine blessing. However, Scripture also warns against the dangers of idolizing material prosperity. In Luke 12:15, Jesus says, "Watch out! Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions," cautioning that wealth is not the end goal. In contrast, Scripture advocates for humility and contentment. In 1 Timothy 6,000 and 6,008, the Apostle Paul writes, "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and clothing, let us be therewith content." This teaching highlights the importance of recognizing that true wealth lies in spiritual fulfillment rather than material abundance. This clarifies God's view on wealth, which Asaph initially misinterpreted. Material prosperity is a blessing when used wisely and in service to higher purposes, but it becomes a curse when idolized. This insight brings a sense of resolution to Asaph's spiritual struggle, restoring his faith in God's ultimate justice and fairness. In ancient Israel, certain societal stories held immense sway. One such narrative was the belief that prosperity equaled divine favor. This narrative painted a clear picture: those who were blessed with abundance must be favored by God. He observed the wicked prospering and began to question his own faith. The narrative of divine favor and material success seemed to contradict Asaph's personal experiences. He felt envy gnawing at him, wondering why God would bless the wicked with such abundance. The societal narrative was compelling. It promised a simple, tangible measure of divine favor, prosperity. Asaph found himself drawn into this narrative, his heart filled with envy and doubt. But this narrative was incomplete. It did not account for the true nature of God's goodness and fairness. For Asaph, entering the sanctuary of God revealed a deeper truth. The prosperity of the wicked is temporary. Their end was not in divine favor, but in ruin. This revelation challenged the prevailing narrative. In the ancient world, trials were seen not as curses, but as opportunities for refinement. Consider Job, a man of unyielding faith who endured tremendous loss and hardship. He was robbed of his wealth, struck with painful boils, and watched his children perish in a tragic accident. Through it all, Job maintained his integrity, refusing to curse God despite the urgings of his wife and friends. His unwavering faith was ultimately rewarded as he regained his fortunes and family. Similarly, the apostles faced severe persecution for their beliefs. Arrested, beaten, and thrown into prison, they remained steadfast in their faith. Their unshakable devotion brought about a powerful witness to the truth of the gospel and led to countless conversions. These examples illustrate that trials are not mere punishments, but opportunities for spiritual growth and deepening of faith. Asaph's envy was a trial that allowed him to see the true end of the wicked and affirm his trust in God's ultimate justice. This realization challenged Asaph's initial perception of the wicked as blessed and brought him to a deeper understanding of God's fairness. Through his trial with envy, Asaph was drawn closer to God and gained a clearer vision of divine justice. His confession of faith in Psalm 73,001 stands as a testament to the transformative power of trials. Understanding this divine purpose behind suffering and envy helps us appreciate that trials are not curses, but opportunities for spiritual refinement. W8. 1 Corinthians 12,010 speaks about the spiritual gift of discerning of spirits, which allows believers to distinguish between different kinds of spirits. But spiritual discernment is crucial for understanding the true nature of both worldly and divine blessings. It's the role of community that can both fuel and soothe envy, as seen in Asaph's journey. Community influence plays a pivotal part in shaping our perspectives. The psalmist might have seen peers thriving while he faced challenges. This disparity could have fueled his envy and doubts about God's goodness. Proverbs 27,017 emphasizes the importance of a supportive community. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. In Asaph's case, it took a change of environment, entering God's sanctuary to gain new insights. This highlights the role of community in both fostering and mitigating envy. In Asaph's day, success was closely tied to divine favor. Prosperity indicated God's approval. But the psalmist also saw the righteous suffering and struggling, which challenged his faith. He realized that the wicked's prosperity was temporary and their end disastrous. The cultural context shaped Asaph's journey from envy to enlightened faith. It is through this trial that Asaph learns to trust in God's ultimate justice, reflecting on the temporary nature of the wicked's prosperity. The Apostle James echoes this wisdom when he writes in James 1,002:4, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." In these trials, Asaph discovers the transformative power of patience in deepening his faith. His struggle with envy ultimately leads to spiritual growth, revealing a pathway to wisdom through the trials we face. Asaph's journey begins within this holy context, where his faith was tested and strengthened through the ebb and flow of life in Jerusalem. The city itself was a microcosm of Israel's spiritual journey, marked by moments of profound devotion and periods of grave uncertainty. It was here, amidst the sacred stones and ancient echoes of worship, that Asaph would encounter his most challenging spiritual trial. Asaph struggled with a gnawing envy, one that seemed to threaten the very core of his beliefs. This was not just any envy, it was a deep spiritual crisis that left him questioning God's fairness and his own faith. In the quiet of that sanctuary, as he meditated on God's ways, a profound truth began to take shape in his heart. The prosperity of the wicked was but a mirage, and their end would be far different than their beginnings. This realization would mark the start of a profound transformation in Asaph's understanding of God and his ways. In ancient Israelite society, the concept of shalom, or peace, encompassed more than just absence of conflict. It included prosperity, security, and social harmony. Wealth was seen as a sign of divine favor, while poverty could be perceived as evidence of divine disfavor. This perspective profoundly influenced individual and communal attitudes. Asaph, living within this societal framework, would have seen the prosperity of the wicked not just as good fortune, but as a tangible sign of God's blessing. The cultural narrative that righteousness leads to blessings and wickedness to curses was deeply ingrained. This would have heightened Asaph's spiritual turmoil when observing the unrighteous prosper. Moreover, the Israelites held a strong sense of communal responsibility and intergenerational inheritance. The well-being of future generations was intricately linked to current actions. His realization that the wicked are ultimately set on slippery ground offers a profound insight not just into divine fairness, but also into the ephemeral nature of worldly blessings. Biblical teachings often emphasize that God's ways are not our own. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, says Isaiah 55:9. This verse underscores that human perception is limited and divine goodness operates on a different plane of understanding. In Psalm 118:3, it is stated, "God's way is perfect, the word of the Lord is flawless." This verse affirms that God's actions are guided by a perfection beyond human comprehension. When Asaph sees the wicked prosper, he is blinded to this higher truth. But once inside the sanctuary, his perspective shifts. He realizes that the wicked are ultimately set on slippery ground, a revelation tied to divine fairness. But more profoundly, he discerns their end, a glimpse into God's long-term plan for justice and goodness. In the sanctuary, Asaph witnesses an unseen reality that redefines his faith. It is a vivid reminder that divine goodness is not always apparent in worldly terms. Throughout history, Asaph's journey in Psalm 73 has left an enduring impact on those who grapple with faith and envy. In the early centuries of Christianity, Psalm 73 was widely recognized as a powerful testament to divine goodness and fairness. Scholars like Augustine of Hippo referred to this psalm as a beacon of hope in the face of worldly adversity. They noted how Asaph's struggle and realization resonated with their own experiences of faith and doubt. Through the Middle Ages, monks and theologians often meditated on Psalm 73 to reinforce their trust in God's ultimate justice. They saw Asaph's journey as a model for overcoming envy and finding solace in divine providence. In the modern era, Psalm 73 continues to be studied and applied, offering comfort to those wrestling with similar questions of faith. Ancient Israel was a highly stratified society, where wealth and status were closely intertwined. The Book of Proverbs, written around the same time as Psalm 73, underscores this relationship. "Wealth makes one's life greener. It is like a constant rain," it reads. Conversely, poverty was often viewed as a form of punishment or neglect from the deity. This dualistic view can be traced back to earlier texts such as Deuteronomy. "If you listen obediently to the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, God will grant you prosperity," it states. This societal framework placed enormous pressure on individuals like Asaph. Seeing the wicked prosper while the righteous struggled would have been deeply unsettling, challenging his understanding of God's justice. Further complicating matters was the cultural emphasis on collective identity and honor. In ancient Israelite society, personal success often reflected not just on the individual, but also on their family and community. The Book of Psalms itself reflects this collective mindset in its frequent use of we and us's when referring to God's people. This collective perspective would have amplified Asaph's sense of envy and doubt. Imagine the psalmist, a man of faith and integrity, witnessing the arrogant, wicked living carefree lives while he himself endures hardship. This stark contrast would have been more than just a personal struggle. It was a crisis of collective faith. It is within this rich historical context that Asaph's confession in Psalm 73 resonates with such depth. His raw honesty about envying the prosperity of the wicked reveals a profound internal conflict exacerbated by societal expectations and religious norms. This historical lens not only enriches our understanding of Asaph's struggle, but also highlights the universal human experience of grappling with faith in the face of adversity and societal pressures. This perspective aligns with the broader biblical theology of suffering, that faith endures through trials and that ultimate justice lies in God's hands. These texts offer a framework to understand that suffering and faith are inextricably linked, and that divine justice often operates on a timeline different from our own. This theology of suffering provides a lens through which we can appreciate the complexity and richness of Asaph's spiritual journey. In ancient Israel, the act of worship was more than just a spiritual practice. It was a tangible ritual that could profoundly transform the heart of a worshipper. Imagine for a moment the ancient city of Jerusalem, a place where the psalmist Asaph once stood in worship. Yet, even in his exalted position, Asaph struggled with a deep and troubling emotion: envy. Asaph's envy was fueled by the success of those who seemed to lack moral compass and yet lived in abundance. He saw them boasting with malice, threatening oppression, and mocking God's knowledge. Asaph struggled to understand this seeming injustice. Why should the arrogant prosper when they are so ungodly? But then something significant happened. Asaph entered the sanctuary of God. In this sacred space, Asaph begins to gain a new perspective on his dilemma. He remembers the words from Proverbs 35-6, which emphasize trust in God's plan. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. This passage underscores a fundamental biblical concept: divine sovereignty. God's sovereignty means that he is in control of all things, from the grand sweep of history to the smallest details of our lives. Asaph begins to consider how this principle might apply to his situation. If God is truly sovereign, then even the prosperity of the wicked cannot escape his purview and control. The Apostle Paul in Romans 8:28 offers further insight into divine sovereignty. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. These words hint at a deeper truth. Even in circumstances that seem unjust or unfair, God is working out his plan for the ultimate good of his people. This new perspective deepens Asaph's spiritual journey, illustrating how a clearer grasp of divine sovereignty can alleviate envy. It is a profound reminder that even when life seems filled with injustice and unfairness, God's plan is always at work for the good of those who love him. Consider Psalm 37, attributed to David himself. This psalm begins with a bold declaration: "Do not fret because of those who are evil or have wicked schemes, for they will be cut down like grass." Here, David encourages trust in God's ultimate justice, reminding us that the wicked may prosper for a time, but their end is sure. In Psalm 49, we find another example of David wrestling with the same questions Asaph faced. This psalm begins, "Hear this, all you peoples, listen, all who inhabit the world." David reminds his audience that no amount of wealth can save one from death. He writes, "For a person cannot redeem himself, he cannot pay to God a ransom for himself, and the redemption of his soul is costly." Asaph, reading these psalms, might have found solace in the reminder that God's justice is not blind to the wicked, and that true wealth cannot be measured by earthly treasures alone. This shared wisdom serves as a profound reminder that envy and faith are universal struggles, but also universal paths to deeper understanding of God's fairness and goodness. By reflecting on these Davidic psalms, we see Asaph's spiritual growth in a new light, one of interwoven biblical wisdom and personal revelation. In the grand tapestry of biblical wisdom literature, Psalmist Asaph's journey through Psalm 73 is a rich thread of introspection and spiritual growth. In Proverbs 13,24-25, we read, "The sluggard works for only a little while and gets less than nothing, but the diligent man accumulates wealth by the sweat of his brow." This passage highlights the contrast between those who work diligently and those who are lazy, reflecting a theme also present in Asaph's psalm. The book of Ecclesiastes likewise offers insights into the vanity and brevity of life. In Ecclesiastes 1:18 it states, "With much wisdom comes much sorrow, the more knowledge, the more grief." This verse underscores the complex nature of wisdom and its relationship to suffering, a theme Asaph wrestles with. In Ecclesiastes 3001:6, the author asserts, "There is a time for everything, and every desire under heaven." This passage emphasizes the divine timing of all things, including prosperity and struggle. When Asaph enters the sanctuary of God, he discovers that true wisdom lies not in worldly prosperity, but in trusting the divine order of things. This revelation aligns with broader biblical wisdom, providing a framework for Asaph's spiritual transformation. In the ancient world, sacred spaces held profound significance. Among these, the Temple in Jerusalem was unparalleled. More than a building, it symbolized God's presence and Israel's covenant with him. Every day, Asaph and his fellow musicians would ascend to the Temple Mount, entering the holy place where the Ark of the Covenant resided. Their voices, lifted in praise, filled this sacred space. The temple's aura taught Asaph that true wealth lies not in worldly possessions, but in communion with God. His struggle was replaced by a deeper understanding and trust in divine justice. As he continued his service, Asaph found solace in the knowledge that the wicked's arrogance would eventually crumble before God's eternal throne. This realization was a turning point in his spiritual journey. Biblical teachings emphasize that God's dominion is everlasting, as Psalm 145,013 declares, "Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom." This eternal rule contrasted starkly with Asaph's temporal envy. As he pondered the divine throne, Asaph realized that the arrogant wicked would one day stand before this eternal judgment. Their prosperity was but a fleeting glimpse compared to the enduring rewards of those who remain pure in heart. The psalmist's envy began to dissolve as he contemplated the eternal consequences of one's actions. Asaph's new perspective on eternity brought a sense of peace and trust in God's ultimate justice. He now viewed the wicked not with envy, but with compassion, knowing their fate was sealed under eternal judgment. Under David's leadership, the Psalms were compiled and refined, becoming a vital part of Israel's worship tradition. Asaph's Psalm 73 reflects the wisdom he would have gained from such a rich spiritual environment. Consider Solomon as another mentor figure. His renowned wisdom was not merely academic, it stemmed from a deep spiritual understanding. In Proverbs, Solomon writes about the importance of humility and the dangers of pride. These teachings would have resonated deeply with Asaph as he confronted his own envy. The words of Solomon and David provided Asaph with a framework to reconsider the prosperity of the wicked and the true nature of divine justice. Perhaps their greatest lesson is that true wisdom lies not in immediate gratification, but in the patient endurance of understanding God's eternal plans. It is here that Asaph gains a new perspective on the wicked, understanding that their prosperity is fleeting and they are destined for ruin. This spiritual awakening transforms Asaph's view, leading him to conclude that God is indeed good and just. Asaph's spiritual awakening leads him to reflect deeply on the divine guidance that has shaped his own life and the lives of others around him. This introspection reveals a pattern of unseen forces at work, guiding individuals towards their ultimate destinies. Consider the story of Joseph in Genesis 37:50. Despite being sold into slavery by his brothers and enduring numerous trials, Joseph remains steadfast in his faith. His divine guidance becomes evident when he interprets Pharaoh's dreams, saving Egypt from famine. This act of obedience elevates him to a position of power, where he can provide for his family during the hardship. Likewise, Moses in Exodus 3:4 experiences divine guidance when God speaks to him through a burning bush. Despite his initial reluctance, Moses eventually leads the Israelites out of slavery and towards the Promised Land. The journey is fraught with challenges, but each step is guided by God's unseen hand. In Psalm 20,004, David reflects on how the Lord guides him through the valley of the shadow of death. This guidance does not prevent hardships, but provides comfort and strength to endure them. The psalmist finds solace in knowing that God's hand is with him even in the darkest moments. In daily life, divine guidance might manifest as quiet intuitions, unexpected opportunities, or even through the wisdom of others who have walked similar paths. Asaph's reflection serves as a reminder that true guidance often comes in subtle ways, requiring patience and discernment to recognize. As he ponders these insights, Asaph experiences a soft settle within his spirit. The turbulence of envy and doubt subsides, replaced by a profound sense of peace and trust in God's unfailing love and guidance. In the ancient Near East, polytheistic beliefs pervaded neighboring cultures, shaping their cosmology and rituals. Each deity was assigned specific domains of influence, from agriculture to warfare. These beliefs often attributed divine favor to material prosperity, with wealthy individuals seen as blessed by their gods. Among the Canaanites, for example, Baal was venerated as the god of storms and fertility. The abundance of crops was considered a sign of Baal's favor, while drought or famine indicated his displeasure. The Phoenicians, known for their maritime prowess, worshipped Melkart, the god of commerce and navigation. Prosperity in trade was seen as a manifestation of his divine intervention. The Babylonians revered Marduk, the god of war and wisdom, attributing their military victories and intellectual advancements to his divine guidance. These beliefs fostered a worldview where material success was closely tied to divine favor. The use of Lamentations provides a means for Asaph to voice his frustrations and doubts, ultimately leading him to a new perspective. The role of Lamentations in Asaph's spiritual transformation underscores their psychological and spiritual importance. They provide a means for grappling with life's puzzling injustices and resolving personal struggles. He sees the arrogant, living carefree lives, boasting about their invincibility. Their wealth seems endless, and they appear to face no struggles. He sees that the wicked are set on slippery ground by God, destined for ruin. This revelation begins a profound shift in Asaph's understanding of divine justice. His envy starts to dissipate as he realizes the temporary nature of worldly prosperity. This new insight leads him to re-evaluate his earlier doubts. By delving into Asaph's internal transformation, we see how a shift in perspective can deepen one's faith and understanding of God's ways. This theological shift underscores the importance of trusting in God's ultimate plan for all. Yet, as he enters the divine presence, Asaph experiences a profound shift in his perspective. Within this sacred space, he discovers an aspect of God's goodness that had previously eluded him: divine mercy. Asaph learns that God's compassion extends even to those who seem far from divine favor. This mercy is not a human concept of leniency, but an act of love that seeks to guide all towards redemption. This revelation stands in stark contrast to human notions of justice, where punishment is often seen as the primary means of maintaining order. For God, however, mercy is the foundational principle through which all are given a chance to turn from their wrongdoings and embrace divine light. Asaph's realization of this mercy not only resolves his internal turmoil, but also deepens his faith and understanding of God's ultimate plan for all. Ultimately, Asaph's realization demonstrates a profound shift in his perspective, from envy of worldly wealth to an understanding of eternal value. And with this newfound wisdom, Asaph finds peace and resolve in his faith. His story serves as a powerful reminder that true riches are not measured by the wealth of this world, but by the treasures stored in heaven. As Asaph's journey concludes, we are left with a profound sense of peace and understanding, a testament to the enduring power of God's wisdom. Asaph's journey takes a pivotal turn when he reflects on the wisdom found in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. These ancient texts, brimming with divine insight, offer a new perspective that guides him toward understanding God's fairness. In Proverbs, Asaph finds wisdom that cautions against envy. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but always live in the fear of the Lord and keep his commandments. Proverbs 23:17-18. Ecclesiastes presents a stark contrast between the fleeting nature of worldly prosperity and the enduring value of divine wisdom. Asaph reads, "The wisest among us still dies, the fool and the wise man both perish." Ecclesiastes 2006. These scriptures instill in him the realization that true prosperity is not found in material wealth, but in a righteous relationship with God. As Asaph internalizes this divine wisdom, he begins to see beyond the superficial success of the wicked. He discerns their ultimate end and the ephemeral nature of their gains. This wisdom helps him overcome his envy and embrace the reality that God's plan is not always visible in the immediate circumstances, but unfolds with perfect timing. Asaph's journey concludes as he finds solace in divine wisdom, understanding that true goodness is not measured by temporal gains, but by eternal rewards. His reflection on the wisdom found in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes guides him to a new perspective on God's fairness, resolving his initial struggle with envy. Communal gatherings and worship services were pivotal in shaping Asaph's perspective. The Israelites, known for their steadfast devotion, would often recite psalms together, reinforcing the teachings of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Asaph's interactions with his community were not just about receiving support, but also about imparting wisdom. His confession of envy in Psalm 73 served as a warning to others who might face similar struggles. Their collective journey through adversity taught them that true faith was not about the absence of trials, but about enduring them together. This wisdom, passed down through generations, helped Asaph navigate his own spiritual challenges. Moreover, Asaph recognizes that the arrogant boast of the wicked is mere noise in the face of divine judgment. In Psalm 70:38-10, the psalmist describes their taunts and threats as empty, for they lack understanding of God's sovereignty. This realization reinforces Asaph's newfound perspective on God's fairness and justice. This new perspective serves as a soft settle, handing off to the next phase of Asaph's spiritual journey, where he continues to navigate the complexities of faith informed by divine mercy and steadfast love. In the ancient Hebrew society, community was the lifeblood of faith and practice. The Psalms frequently emphasize the importance of communal worship and support. For instance, in Psalm 133,001, it is written, "How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity," highlighting the divine blessing that comes with collective harmony. This unity was not merely a spiritual ideal, but also a practical necessity for survival and prosperity. The collective wisdom of the community served as both a guiding light and a means of mutual support during times of trial. However, when envy took root within Asaph's heart, it began to fester, creating ripples that disrupted the harmony around him. Asaph's envy of the prosperous wicked was not merely a personal failing, but also an affront to the collective faith and trust in God's justice. His doubt and questioning could have undermined the faith of those who looked up to him, further straining the community's spiritual fabric. But the community also played a crucial role in Asaph's transformation. In Psalm 145,014, we see God's commitment to lifting up those who are humble and lowly, suggesting that Asaph's community may have provided him with the support he needed to confront his envy. As we delve deeper into Asaph's spiritual journey, it becomes crucial to consider the influences that shaped his perspective. His family, in particular, may have played a significant role in shaping his views on prosperity and envy. While specific details about Asaph's family are scarce, we can infer a few key points from the historical and cultural context of his time. This position implies a certain level of status and wealth within the community, which could have set high expectations for Asaph's own prosperity. Additionally, his role as a chief musician would have placed him among the religious elite of Israel, surrounded by those who were likely highly respected and affluent. It's possible that this environment fostered an implicit comparison between his own circumstances and those around him who held similar positions but appeared more prosperous. The psalmist confesses to a period of spiritual turmoil as he struggles with envy over the apparent blessings enjoyed by others. This struggle could be exacerbated by a sense of entitlement due to his family's prominence and the expectations that come with it. The realization that God's ultimate judgment awaits the arrogant and the prosperous is a pivotal moment in Asaph's journey.